You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Monday the 21st of January. Roman nobleman's face recreated using 2,000-year-old skull. Pensioners' care, £75,000 cap, still have to sell homes. Mourners mourn the wrong crime in Wales. Islamic success story at German universities. British paedophile jailed for paying Bulgarian parents for their sons. Troops patrol Paris streets after terror threat. Obama could not pass a background check. We're only after the Christians, say the Algerian terrorists. Thought for the day, leave 'em to it. And finally, a truly hippie chick. UK news. Scientists have digitally recreated the face of a Roman nobleman using a 2,000-year-old skull found in a British fortress. Archaeologists believe the mystery Roman may have been wealthy and had possibly retired from the army when he died, aged about 40. His skeleton in a stone coffin was unearthed near Newport, South Wales, not far from the Roman fortress at Caerleon. Experts used the same technology as police to discover how the face belonging to a murder victim's skull would look, but this is the first time it's been used on someone who lived 2,000 years ago. The finished portrait shows a dark-haired, handsome man, likened to film star Sylvester Stallone and actor Richard Burton. The remains, which date from 200 AD, were found by builders working on Newport University campus 18 years ago. Care bill for pensioners capped at £75,000, but thousands will still be forced to sell their homes. Pensioners will have their long-term care bill capped at £75,000, it was reported. Under coalition plans, the elderly will get state protection against never-ending care home fees for the first time, but they will have to take out private insurance to cover them up to the new limit. Pensioners will still have to pay care bills up to £75,000, with campaigners for the elderly fearing that thousands of families will be forced to sell their homes. In the summer of 2010, mourners lined the streets of Wales' capital city to pay tribute to a 7-year-old boy killed in a house fire. In fact, Yassine Ali Eid was brutally beaten to death and then set alight with barbecue fuel by his mother for failing to learn the Quran. Over the preceding months, Mum had used a stick, a rolling pin and a hammer on her son, but despite these incentives he had memorised only a couple of pages, and so she killed him, and subsequently declared she felt 100% better. This month at Cardiff Crown Court, Mrs Eage was sentenced and jailed by Mr Justice Wyn Williams for what he declared a dreadful crime that had inflicted a good deal of pain on an innocent boy. The judge, however, was discreet enough not to pass comment on more basic cultural questions. He had no view on whether or not being forced to learn the Quran is an appropriate educational priority for a Welsh schoolboy, so long as the parental hammer and kerosene remained locked up in the tool shed, nor on whether a child so raised can be a fully functioning member of Western society. Yassine's headmistress at Radnor Primary School, Anne James, called him a delightful little boy and beautifully behaved, who always had a smile on his face, and forbore to mention that on the day of his murder he'd been kept home from class and the teddy bears picnic because his mother felt he needed to focus on his Quranic studies. The World at 8 reporter said, perhaps the punishment should match the crime and its methods. European news. Islamic success story at German universities. New Islamic theology courses at German universities are proving highly popular, even abroad. The courses were announced only 3 years ago, but they are already changing the German religious landscape. Islamic theology is finding its place in German universities at a pace which is surprising many. German academics even speak of Germany acting as a magnet for talent from other European countries. There's never been such a process at European universities, says Reinhard Schulz, who teaches Islam at the University of Bern in Switzerland. Lecturers at German universities, speaking at a meeting of experts with the German Parliamentary Education Committee, said they were convinced that there would be a rapid increase in the teaching of Islam. A World at 8 reporter states, "This is no surprise. Firstly, Islam is the new fascism, and secondly, there are more Muslim students throughout Europe in general, so really, although frightening, this is no shock. British paedophile jailed for paying poor Bulgarians £60,000 to sexually abuse their sons. A British paedophile who paid impoverished parents in Bulgaria £60,000 to sexually abuse their young sons has been jailed for 4 years. Poor Renos victims were just 11 years old and were handed over to him for weekends and holidays, a Bulgarian court heard. The parents had increasingly relied on the divorced dad of three's money for food, and he even bought them a house. Neighbours tipped off the police and officers caught the 63-year-old in a sex act with one of the boys when they raided his home in the central city of Veliko Trnavo. Troops patrol Paris streets after terror threat. France has deployed 700 troops in and around Paris, Interior Minister Manuel Valls revealed on Tuesday, in the latest indicator of mounting concern over potential reprisals for military intervention in Mali. Leaders of the militant Islamic groups under attack in the West African state have warned that France has opened the doors of hell by unleashing its warplanes and have called on fellow extremists to hit back on French soil. Valls said everything possible was being done to ensure that did not happen, while cautioning that the threat posed by foreign and homegrown extremists had existed long before French forces went into action in the former colony. In terms of evaluating the risk, we've had to be prudent, but our interior and exterior intelligence services are being extremely vigilant. Most homosexuals don't want to marry or adopt. In an article by Matthew Cullinane Hoffman on lifesitenews.com, Nathalie de Willencourt, the co-founder of the new French homosexual organisation HomoVox, says that most homosexuals do not want to marry or adopt children and are not supporters of the socialist government's proposed legislation to create homosexual marriage. Ms Willencourt says she decided to create the group as a result of her frustration over a vocal homosexual lobby that has been unquestionably accepted as the mouthpiece of all the country's homosexuals. She has previously stated, "Many gay people do not recognise the claims of gay lobbies. This is why the collective homovox.com was formed, to enable them to express themselves freely in a highlight of the opposition to marriage for all. Many of homosexuals, Willencourt knows, don't have any desire to marry nor to adopt. They don't feel represented by activists that they haven't chosen, who steal the stage from a silent majority," she told the French magazine Christian Family. Many feel belittled, mistreated by this array of demands that stigmatise them. Willencourt's claims are supported by statistics from many jurisdictions that have created homosexual marriages, civil unions and other such arrangements. In Spain, it is estimated less than 3% of Spain's homosexuals have availed themselves of marriage during the 7 years of its availability. In the liberal Netherlands, only 8% of homosexuals were married in 2011. World News. Obama could not pass a background check. President Obama could not pass a background check if he was applying for a gun permit or a job. Why has this man been allowed to remain in office or take oath for the second time? During the 2008 campaign, it is known that his official long-form birth records were sealed, his Occidental College records were sealed, his Columbia College records were sealed, his Harvard College records were sealed, his college thesis sealed, his Harvard Law Review articles sealed, his Indonesian adoption records sealed, his passport file sealed, his medical records unavailable, his baptism records unavailable, his papers from his service in the Illinois legislature unavailable, his Illinois State Bar Association records unavailable, and the birth certificate that the White House released is reputed by document experts to be false. Indonesia, Muslim authorities threaten to shut down 6 Christian schools for not teaching Islam. Jakarta municipal authorities in Blitar, a town in East Java province, are threatening to shut down 6 Catholic schools by the 19th of January if the latter do not provide Islamic courses and readings of the Quran to their Muslim students, in accordance with regional bylaw. The 6 Catholic schools at risk are the Diponegro Catholic High School, the Catholic Vocational Training High School, St Mary KG, St Mary Elementary School and Jos Sudarso Catholic Elementary and Jos Sudarso Catholic Junior High School. The schools received the municipal injunction in the final days of 2012, but their administrators have refused to comply with the directive by 19th of January. So far, school administrators have not released any official statement on the matter because of the sensitive nature of the issue. Before expressing any opinion, they are set to take part in meetings with Catholic leaders. Sources within the schools note, however, that Muslim students and their families had accepted their teaching programmes without complaining. No one has ever objected on religious grounds. In fact, it has been a long-established practice that Indonesia's private Christian schools, including those run by the Catholic Church, are not required to offer courses on Islam or readings of the Quran as in public schools. Instead, they provide courses and seminars on Christianity and the Catechism. A World Day spokesman commented, "And how many Muslim schools teach Christianity?" Algeria, we're only after the Christians. Minutes later, a Briton lay dead. Terrifying moment, gas plant gunmen rounded up non-Muslims and strapped explosives to their necks. A British security guard was murdered in cold blood just minutes into the siege at the Algerian gas plant. An IT worker caught up in the hostage crisis has told the Mail on Sunday. The Algerian employee who managed to escape has given the most detailed account so far of how Islamist terrorists rounded up foreign workers during the 4-day standoff and placed explosives around their necks. Following his escape, the IT worker contacted a friend who remained in the camp and witnessed the final onslaught by Algerian troops. Speaking under the condition of anonymity after the Algerian army told him not to talk, he said, "The terrorists arrived at 5:10 on Wednesday in 3 vehicles and began firing at a bus. A guard was shot and then another guard got out of the car and was instantly shot dead. I believe he was the first Briton to die." The IT worker recalled how the Islamists systematically targeted Western employees. The terrorists went to the alarm station, switched off the alarms and forced the deputy manager to show them where the expats were. The attackers, who were carrying Kalashnikovs and bombs, went throughout the complex seeking out expats hiding and forcing them into the circle. He said more than 20 British workers, whom the terrorists called kafar, meaning non-Muslim, were rounded up. He added, "Us Algerians were rounded up separately and were treated with kindness. We were told that because we were Muslim we would not be killed, and it was only the Christians they were after." A World State writer comments, "Of course they were. No change there then." Thought for the day, just leave 'em to it. Having just read the news from the BP plant in Algeria and the reports that the Algerian ministry announced that in total 32 kidnappers and 23 captives had died in this terrible siege which started last Wednesday, we can also gauge that it was the Christians that these men were after. If you have seen the pictures of those Christians cowering on the ground with their hands up, I think we can all agree that whilst not all Muslims are fanatics, most of today's fanatics are Muslims. This picture will not be alone in the future. I foresee many more to come, and all with the blessings of their prophet Muhammad, may the fleas of 1,000 camels, and so on. Having watched a very good film last night covering the homegrown Islamic terrorism, one very important message came over, and it was not the one I originally thought. Firstly, the jihadists are becoming more militarised and seem to be justifying their terrible actions more vociferously than ever. They whine that their countries have been crushed underfoot by the West and their women and children are dying, and what the West has done to them and theirs. Now, I'm not for us Brits getting involved in so-called foreign wars, but facts are facts. For whatever reason, and they are legion, we have got involved in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I think I can say in truth that more of their people have been killed by their people than Western soldiers have killed their people. Our government and media have stupidly encouraged the Arab Spring in Libya, Egypt, and are now gunning for Syria, and it is still Muslims killing Muslims. Although they may be of a different sect, I thought Islam was not a sectarian religion, however I'm obviously wrong. So we have our very own homegrown morons, spouting lies from the comfort of the homes provided by the kuffars and happily accepting benefits given out by the kuffar government which they so despise, while still tweeting and twittering to their fanatical friends in between, making very good use of the free education, free healthcare and relatively free society to which they migrate. We are all apparently going over to their original countries which they left in its hour of need and killing off all the relations they left there. which by my reckoning is virtually none. All absolute nonsense, when seen in the cold light of day outside the mosque. In fact, most of this rhetoric is used just to fire up the stupids who still go home to Slough or Tower Hamlets. Surely no one, even our blind politicians, really think that the vast majority of immigrant Muslims over here give their allegiance to our Queen and country, whatever honours we seem to heap on their heads. These people are, however, very, very busy over here. They're busy making our homeland into their homeland, with the well-financed and greasy palm building of mosques and shops dedicated to Islamic goods, as well as taking over and buying road upon road of houses and giving them to their relations to enable them to breed more good Muslims, who owe their loyalties to firstly Islam and secondly the countries that they originated from. My point being, if Muslims especially do not like England or the English and seem to think our way of life is odd, and they're so very hard done by in the Western world, why leave the country of their birth? As originally down the line all immigrants by virtue of the title were not born in the UK. Surely the Western world cannot be made to pay for the ills of all Muslim-run countries around the world. It's about time they took responsibility for their own shortcomings and those of their various governments for the result of the disastrous Arab Spring, which is more like a nuclear winter. In fact, Cameron has warned of an Islamic war in North Africa that could last for decades. Well, sorry to have said I told you so, but I did. When Libya was the first inspiration for Western-backed Islamic fundamentalists, you could get rid of one dictator and 100 spring up, rather like the Gorgon's teeth. As Muslims are busy effing up their own countries and other peoples, the UK must seem like a haven of idiots for not only accepting vast numbers of these parasites, but trying to be seen to welcome them. They have it easy in the UK, despite their bleatings and protests, believe me. If the sexual predators that perpetrate the Muslim sexual abuse of our minors in England were in India, Pakistan or Bangladesh and targeted Hindu or Sikh children, I don't think that those authorities would turn a blind eye to these men as our police do, simply because they are Muslim. To watch BBC is rather like watching Al Jazeera in English, and you know what us nationalists think of Question Time. But Rachel Bull is my sort of lady. She had the audacity to tell it like it is, and she was very diplomatic about it. But truth is truth, and she's right in saying that her hometown of Boston is like a foreign country. In truth, this country is now a multicultural hellhole waiting to explode. She spoke on behalf of Lincolnshire, and I'm sure everyone could identify with her comments, despite the fact she is a Liberal's dream, having Polish ancestry. Peterborough has had an increase in the local birth rate of 45.6% from 2002 to 2011. Boston, 53.5%. The other areas bringing on a crisis in the maternity wards are Watford, Slough, Barking and Dagenham, Bristol, Bournemouth and Southampton. Much of this increase is Eastern European, and the forthcoming influx of Romanians and Bulgarians will not win hearts and minds in Lincolnshire, or indeed anywhere else in this beleaguered land. On my original subject, a letter was sent to me and the contents of the title of the thought today. Leave 'em to it, and I agree. I quote, "Pull all Westerners out and let the camp of Islam sink," by Hugh Fitzgerald. Don't work in Muslim countries, don't help them. Let them try to extract the gas and oil themselves, or pay extravagantly 5, 10, 20 times what they now pay to the implacable Chinese, who will bring their own troops and their own ways of protecting themselves. Don't supply the rich little Arab sheiklets with doctors and nurses, with engineers and teachers. Don't let them rent bits and pieces, local phony circus ales of Western civilization, the Louvre for example, or well-known universities, which allows them to pretend to themselves and to the world that, indeed, civilization is rentable, and they've got the money. Let their primitive condition be uncamouflaged from view. They're helplessly dependent on the West. Remove those Westerners. Don't send tourists, who will only be targets sooner or later for Muslim terrorists, as they are, as of now, targets for baksheesh demanders of every kind. Separation. The would-be natural victim will cease to help his natural victimiser. The advanced non-Muslim world right here, and Islam, the camp of Islam, over there. Why should the potential victim help his potential or actual implacable enemy? See the Quran, see Hadith, see Sirah, in any way. This letter is bringing up the subject of putting the Islamic world on hold or boycotting it, a method used throughout the ages to discourage foreigners, foreign invasions and some wars. We did the same in England with the Huguenots and the Flemish weavers. The Saxons followed this code with the Normans and probably with the poor old Romans. Would we use this method in this country now, or will we be forced to? Boycotting is not a natural British thing to do, and it would take foresight, guts and a government fully behind you to do it. But the writer is correct. The Western world has become selfish and greedy and unable to see the bigger picture. It must be somewhere in the art of war how to hoist your enemies with their own petard. We need to do something before we're all taken to the cleaners literally. But more of that in my next thought on Wednesday. And finally, a hippie chick. A woman with the largest hips insists big is beautiful. Plus-size model and part-time carer Mikkel Raffanelli, whose hips measure more than 8 feet in circumference, says she has no plans to lose weight. Mrs Raffanelli, 39, was an athletic teenager who had no problems with her weight. She first started noticing her hips were growing at the age of 22, just after the birth of her first child. Although her waist measures 40 inches, her 100-inch hips hold the record for being the largest in the world. Some people assume I've had surgery to enhance my body shape, but it's all natural, she insisted. It's the result of having 4 children, but having large hips also runs in the family. Mrs Raffanelli has no plans to lose weight, but she admitted that her size has occasionally caused her problems. If I travel by plane, I have to buy 2 seats because the seats won't accommodate me, so it gets quite expensive. I have to go through doors sideways and I can't close the shower door because my hips get in the way. The mother of 4, who lives in Los Angeles, believes that her attitude to life proves that big is beautiful. This presenter says Mikkel, despite her Italian name, is black and bless her heart, she has the classic big booty of the African female. In days gone by her shape was considered the height of beauty in Africa, and she is right in saying it's in her genes because it is. I believe the medical name is steatocopygia, and it is most evident in some of the various bush tribes which originated in South Africa. You can always look it up under the Hottentot Venus, which is rather similar to the German Venus of Willendorf. But saying that, she is definitely a very hippie chick. You've been listening to The World at 8. I'm Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.